Boom, we are live, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. It's your boy, Chad, with a capital C. No, I'm kidding. I have not decided what I'm going to name this channel. Not sure it's going to matter, so it doesn't, we shan't get into it. But I just kind of wanted to go off here about why I think America is truly in trouble. I mean, truly, truly, truly in a lot of trouble. And this is probably, by the way, I think politics is pretty lousy. I think there's many other things that are better uses of your time than to worry about Nancy Pelosi or even Donald Trump, who you will never, ever, ever meet in your entire life. You're never going to meet them. What I do think is important is to care about culture and what you believe to be correct, or correct, fundamentally, not political. What did Nancy say, or what did the Donald say? Who cares? I mean, seriously, who cares? You're never going to meet them. They don't care about us, and frankly, I don't care about them. And honestly, I don't think you should either. The United States is, I'm 26 years old, and I have a master's degree, which doesn't mean a gosh darn thing. I mean, it's a cool accomplishment, but it really doesn't mean a whole lot, not as much as it used to. And I live in California, and in my opinion, the state of California is the perfect example of what the United States as a whole will become very soon. And you needn't go any further than looking at the response that a huge portion of the population has had to COOF. And it's so disheartening to see how, I'll give you an example of really what bothers me with the whole COOF thing. It's obviously nonsense. I mean, is the virus an actual thing? Sure, it is. But is it, any worse than, I don't know, the common flu, to the point where literally businesses, the economy is shut down? No, I don't think so. But I don't really care to get into all of that. But I do, what I do want to get into to make my point is simply, like, if you watch Louder with Crowder, who, I used to be a big fan of, big fan, and I still, think his show is okay. It's okay, all right, okay, but the problem is that you look at a guy like Steven Crowder, who tells us to resist, us, okay, you and me, to resist, but we're all in this on our own. We are not united on this COOF thing. We're not. We are not standing side by side. I mean, all it would take is just a good amount of people deciding to just not acquiesce to any of the requests, and it would be over. At the core of conservatism is being an individual. As much as they would love to preach about family, the bottom line is, on a lot of things, they also simultaneously, and when I say they, it's not really accurate, as I'm very, very conservative, have been my whole life, which has been tough in a state like California. But simultaneously, they tell us that, liberty and freedom matters above all else, above all else. And while preaching family. And in my opinion, those and community. And in my opinion, those two things are very contradicting. Can you really say that anywhere in the United States exists any real community where people stand together and band together? No, absolutely not. And so it's just, in my opinion, it is a perfect example of how especially the Republicans' message falls drastically short. The only answer that they have for us is to resist. And the bottom line is, it's like, listen, Stephen, or, whoever, name the conservative commentator. The only ones who I would say are not that bad would be Nick Fuentes, Alex Jones, definitely, even though in my opinion he's a little crazy. I absolutely respect how he stands by what he believes and actually fights for what he believes, because the reality is, in the conservative party, you have a bunch of people who talk about it but ain't about it. Okay. And the reality is, it's really easy for a guy like Crowder, who gets, I guarantee he makes at least $1 million a year talking into a microphone, to tell us who have normal jobs with working for corporations or companies to say, resist. And I remember when I had to make this decision, and I had held out for the vaccine for so long. And by the way, I'm not saying that my answer is correct or anything like that. I'm just giving an example as to my thought process. And really, when I looked at my coworkers who were also resisting, I just kind of looked around and I thought, okay, if we're not going to do it, then there needs to be action, because you can't just go home and sit on your ass and do nothing. That's not acceptable. You have to take action in some form. By the way, when I say take action, I don't mean, violence or physicality or anything like that. I mean putting your best foot forward in accomplishing something. I remember thinking to myself, one possibility is to protest with my fellow coworkers and bring it to the attention of other people that we felt that we were being discriminated against, which we absolutely were. Okay. That's one thing I absolutely do not understand about this whole thing, is how it's not discrimination. I mean, I really do not understand that. What my master's degree in is effectively HR, and by every letter of the law, it is discrimination, but I digress. And so that was one option, to protest. The other option would be to band together and sue. The third option would be to, and this would kind of be protesting, but it would be to like not show up to work or something like that, and make them feel our absence. But at its core, it required all of us to be together, and we weren't. It was a bunch of individuals making individual choices against all the strongest government in the world, possibly in all of history. And you're just never going to win like that. Not to mention, going back to the original thing I was saying, which is the United States is over, and I don't see it coming back anytime soon, would be immigration. You have at minimum 1 million people from another country coming into the United States, which I know very well, living in the state of California, coming in. And for the life of me, I will never, ever understand why some people say in an attempt to not seem, racist or racist or this or that, in an attempt to explain it away, they say, well, they take remedial jobs that Americans don't want. And at the core, okay, there's two big issues. One, there's not an unlimited amount of resources. That just doesn't exist. Okay. We're not currently in heaven. Okay. We're just not. And the other thing is that when you have all of these people coming in, you are spending money on them. It's costly. And you could say, well, the money that these foreigners put back into the economy basically makes it even. And it's just like, again, look at how far, what lengths you are willing to go to explain it all away. When at the end of the day, it's not really that controversial to believe that if you're an American, you're an American, and the people who are in America should be taken care of first. Okay. And I don't see that changing anytime soon. I really don't. Even if DeSantis gets into office, I do not see that changing, because the reality is, and this is why I'm not even sure I'm going to vote anymore. It doesn't really matter in the state of California. And overall, does my vote really matter? I don't really think so. And then you take it a step further and you have to ask yourself, well, the party that I'm voting for, the Conservative Party, well, do they do what I ask? Do they actually represent me, a 26-year-old white man? And the answer is a resounding no. It's a no. So whoever gets, even if a Republican wins, which will become rarer and rarer as immigrants are allowed to vote, they do nothing. You look at the justices that get into that get sworn in, that literally a country was divided down the middle to, in Brett Kavanaugh. Now it's ultimately, it's good that he got in because it was justice. He didn't do anything wrong, this, that, and that. I would never want a not guilty man to basically lose his life or lose his career for political ends. But you have these Supreme Court justices that get in there who are supposed to represent the Conservative Party, who do nothing. They always end up being really, really liberal. And you just look at all this, and especially from my position, if you're someone who is liberal or centrist or even libertarian or anarchist, you do think that there's still a little bit of hope left in the United States. But but if you're conservative, there's no hope. And I'll give you yet another example. The Conservative Party has bent over backwards when it comes to so many issues. Pretty soon here, Caitlyn Jenner is going to be representing the Republican Party. Okay. And anybody who is truly conservative would say, no, we're not having that. That's not acceptable. Because at the core of conservatism, you believe in family, you believe in community, and you believe in your country. And it just shows that the Conservatives Party, Okay, especially let's just say the Republican Party. Okay, let's put that stamp on there. Who do not represent their voting base. They kowtow to almost everything the left wants. I remember when I was growing up, going to a suburban middle school, and I went to a suburban high school, and Proposition 8 was a very big thing. Okay, that was whether gay marriage would be legalized or not. And I don't know if most Americans know this, if this ever reaches most Americans, but Proposition 8 actually passed, meaning it would not be legal. Okay, it was vote yes on Prop 8 to make gay marriage illegal. Okay, you could not do it. And I remember when that was going on, and Proposition 8, saying yes on Proposition 8, won twice in a row. The left, one thing that they did not take into account was how Christian Black voters were, especially when it came to things. I mean, homosexuality is just not accepted in the Black community. At least then it was not. Now, maybe a little bit more so. But the point is that the conservatives now, when they would have voted yes on making homosexual marriage illegal, then would now say, let's have Caitlyn Jenner as our next governor, because why not? Because winning above all, above everything is more important than staying true to your virtues. And so you couple those three major issues with a depleted economy, a country who lacks identity in being American. I would say most people they cannot even articulate what it means to them to be American. Not only because they just can't, but because they haven't been taught it, and because it really doesn't matter to them. They don't care. And you couple all those things, and it's just not optimistic. I remember listening to what's his name? Michael Malice. And Michael Malice, is the darling of Blaze TV right now because, he's, I don't know, he's a decent looking guy, and he's not spouting off the status quo, I guess, and partly because he's probably Jewish. That's that's probably part of it too. But you look at it and at what he said, and he says that he is optimistic about the United States, and that's because he wants it to burn. Okay, if you want to keep the America that the founding fathers raised up and built themselves, then you're not okay with what something like Michael Malice says. And furthermore, you logically take it to its final conclusion, and you ask yourself, could an anarchist society really happen? Would it be possible? And the answer is no, because most people like to be told what to do. They like to be governed. In an anarchist society, in order for it to work, you need self-sufficient people. I don't know about you, but I've took a look around the United States lately, and there's not a whole lot of self-sufficient people. So you just take all of this, and it's not very optimistic. It really is not. And I guess you could say, well, okay, Nolan, that's not a way to live your life. And I would say that the only thing that you can do, especially as a man, is to lift weights, go for runs, and enjoy your life. That's it. That's all you can do. And on a small scale, be involved in your community. If you have kids, be involved with the school system and the rhetoric that they teach. And that's a whole nother can of worms, is the schooling and how terrible that is. But that's really it, is just taking care of yourself. And, particularly to men. I mean, there's a lot of soy boy feminized men out there. And if you have any hope in hell in, I don't know, having a fulfilling life, then don't worry about Nancy Pelosi or the Donald, okay? And lift weights, be healthy, and have fun. That's it. That's really it. And the community stuff. But outside of that, there's nothing that I or you are going to do that will make that much of an impact that will alter the trajectory of the United States. Because you also have to ask yourself, well, if I were to try and make a huge impact, would it help the United States get back to what is good? Or am I just feeding into the machine and diluting the conversation and diluting all the good stuff that needs to be heard? And I would argue it's the latter. You think of the conservative porn, that's what I call it, the conservative porn, where, some libtard says, America sucks, and you literally have every libtard channel, or excuse me, every conservative porn channel going, did you see what so-and-so said? Did you see what so-and-so? And it's like, oh my gosh, what are you guys doing? Who cares? Who cares? No, I did not see what that person said. Who cares? Who cares? So that's pretty much that. I don't know if I'm going to continue this channel. I've had a sports channel that I do that has done pretty well. But if I were to do this, I would not have conversations like I'm having now. I think, somebody who I watch that I would consider kind of mirroring what I do would be like Jay Dyer, examining the culture and is more specifically Christianity, and things like that. I would say that if the Christian leaders on a very massive level were to get back to what they used to be, then we would have a chance. I had to pause it real quick because I want to get some Trader Joe's chips. But yeah, it's not looking good, guys. It really is not. It's not looking good. And it's sad. And all of that, it really is. It doesn't make me happy, that's for sure. Some people it actually does. That's a whole nother thing right there, is that how do you expect a country to continue to be prosperous when half of the country literally hates it? And you could argue it's actually more than 50%, because there's 10% of conservatives who are so fed up that they no longer like the country they live in because it doesn't represent them. The other advice I would give, especially to men, is get a flip phone. Okay. This is the phone that I have. Okay. Flip phone. 90, I remember I watched, and this is what changed my mind. I've always known this, the 3 degrees I have are all in psychology, but I remember watching this dude who did like a study or a book on the effects of blue screens from smartphones, and it's not good. Okay. It's not good. It's very bad. And I remember seeing that and I said, you know what? I agree with everything he said. Let me have a smartphone. And there's a fly. So I got I got a flip phone. The truth of the matter is 90% of the bullshit you do on your smartphone, especially as a dude, is bullshit. I mean, it really is. I mean, literally, what are you doing? Mindlessly flipping through Facebook, looking at thoughts that you will never bang. I mean, who cares? Once you get past 18, these chicks have been hit on so many times on Facebook that they're never going to respond to you. Couple that with the fact that they have 100 dudes each day, especially if it's a dime piece, a dimer, as they say, they're not going to message. Even if you're a Chad, they're not going to respond to you because they don't respect you when you do that, quite frankly. What else is there on a smartphone? Watching YouTube videos, who cares? Reading Fox News, who cares? So get a flip phone, work out. And if you can't do a flip phone, drastically try and reduce the amount of time you look at your phone. And I guess the other thing I would say is and this is really good advice. This is one thing that the manosphere gets right, which is, as a man, to build your life for you, not for all these women. Okay, build it for you. Okay, build the life that you want for yourself as a grown ass man. As a grown ass man. That's what you need to do. When you do that, the women will come. They will come. That's, no pun intended. That's just the nature of it, So, and, not to mention, it'll save you money. I mean, going out with chicks costs so much money. It really does. You're probably just better off going to a massage parlor. But, so yeah, I mean, that's really it. I don't feel good about the United States and the trajectory. I really don't. I don't know if it'll all come crumbling down in my lifetime, because you look at, Rome or the Byzantine Empire or Egypt or, England is still going. I don't know if you could call it an empire anymore. But it's over the span of a couple hundred years. Now, are we at the back end? I don't know, but it's probable that we're still at the beginning, honestly. That the end of the United States won't come for another 300 years, long past when we are all gone. But so if I had to guess, I would say it probably will not come to a grinding halt. I would say that if I were to bet that it would come to a grinding halt, it would be because of the rising race relations and race tension in the United States. I mean, it is continuing to rise and rise and rise. And I mean, who knows what the end product of that will be? Who knows what the next step for that will be? I mean, is it that crazy to believe that in certain states they will decide to round up all white people and put, as part of reparations to, do so? I don't think that that's that crazy. I think it's absolutely possible. And you could say, well, you know, uh, we would never allow that. Well, you allowed the COOF, you allowed COOF. So, there's many things that you would say that you would not allow. What about, the Japanese? Don't you think they said the same thing? What about the Jews? Don't you think that they thought the same thing, that they would not allow it? The reality is there's only a handful of people who are willing to man the fuck up and fight back. Most people like to be told what to do, and that's the reality. So, if that were to happen, that is when I would say that it will go up into flames. But other than that, if that didn't, drastically change the course of the United States, then I would say that it's still going to go for at least 100 years after we are gone. So, anyways, guys, if this does indeed get put up on YouTube, screw it, subscribe. Why not? I know some of you guys are like, well, I'm not going to subscribe. I'm not going to subscribe. I'm not going to subscribe. Fine, don't. Or just, quit being a dork and subscribe. Quit being a dork and subscribe. And of course, I love, Clay Travis, his little slogan, DBAP, don't be a pussy willow in facts or feelings, because your feelings don't fucking matter. Light.